time for another Nebraska Prep Zone Report. We are sponsored today by MD West One, Nebraska's most advanced sports medicine, orthopedics, neurosurgery, and spine care, covering Greater Omaha for over 70 years. I'm your host, Jake Anderson, and I'm pleased to be joined today by World-Herald soccer guru, Nick Rubek. Nick, I believe this is your first appearance on the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. I think we did a little show last year, a little talk last year before state soccer, but yeah, I guess it would have been 2 years ago. Sorry. We didn't do any soccer talking last year, but yeah, good to be back, man.
Well, we're just going to dive right into it here because we have districts coming up in about a week and state soccer will be here before we know it, since that follows districts. And you've got a great set of notes here. And so we're going to run down Class A and B for boys and Class A and B for girls, kind of give people it's a little bit past midseason, but kind of give people a primer in this different year. And let's start right off the top with that number one team in Class A, Lincoln Southwest.
Yeah. I've been asked by a couple of different coaches kind of about Southwest, and the best way I can really describe them is they're just solid across the board. You're not going to get a ton of flash with them, but when you start with a Division I keeper like they have in Nolan Fuelberth, who's going to Northern Illinois, when you start with that in goal, you're starting in a pretty good spot. They've done enough to get to that top spot. They're the only undefeated team left, and so right now they're in that spot. They don't have a ton of challenges down the stretch, but districts will be a challenge, and then if they get to state, obviously the opportunity to prove that out there.
And that number two team, Omaha South, perennial power. You have that there. The Packers are still kind of finding themselves. Yeah.
They started the season number one. Just kind of a different team this year from in 2019 when they won it all. That 2019 team really kind of found their roles in a much quicker fashion and kind of settled into who they were. And this team, you can tell, it is just still really kind of trying to figure that out. Their last four matches they've fallen behind in. And so I don't know if it's a slow start. That's the identity of that group. It's one that can kind of turn the switch on when they need to. But yeah, they are still adjusting. They have some underclassmen that South coach Joe Moss described to me as that they've demanded minutes and demanded them by the way they've played and the way they've carried themselves. So they're going to be right there at the end. It will just be interesting to see down the stretch here if they can kind of hammer out an identity and really put the pieces in place.
And then speaking of perennial powers, can't forget about Creighton Prep, led by Creighton recruit Ryan Brackey.
Yep. A little different prep team this year as well. Not the group that walks off the bus and gives you a reason for pause because they're so big and physical, but it's a quality team. Just one that didn't have any varsity experience coming back. Brackey was the only one from 2019 that played varsity minutes. So it's going to take a team like that time to really find its footing as well. I feel like they made some strides during the Metro tournament. I know they dropped one to Gretna here in the last week after that, but they're going to be right in the mix too. Don't forget about them for sure.
And the junior Jays, what you're mentioning there, that veteran experience, that's kind of something we were talking about with baseball too, with Mike Patterson, that sophomores in 2019 are now your team leaders, and coaches kind of feel like they almost have a full team of underclassmen.
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple coaches have said to me, we have two freshman classes. You have sophomores that didn't get to play their freshman season, and then you obviously have freshmen. It's been an adjustment for everyone, and I think it's a reason that we have kind of some of the parity or the ups and downs of teams. It's their first varsity grind, and that's one of the things about soccer that a lot of people probably don't realize is high school soccer. It really is a grind. When they're playing club, they're not playing 3-4 games a week. We have stretches where the Millard North girls played I don't remember what it was, 7 or 9 games in 12 days or something like that. In 2 of those 12 days were Sundays, so you don't get a lot of time to practice. You're kind of practicing on the fly and playing games. And so, it's a different deal. And a lot of guys are getting their first taste of that this season.
And the next team you have here, Gretna, that's still an adjustment for me, seeing the Dragons with Class A for soccer. But they're a dangerous offensive team.
They are. They can play. I mean, they've hit a couple of skids the last couple of weeks, and lost to Millard North in the Metro tournament. Lost to Westside this week. And neither of those are bad losses. I wouldn't consider them that. But that is a team that has the pieces to do what it needs to do. And that is a team that does have guys that have played at the state tournament at a higher level. They are firmly in the mix when you're talking about Class A contenders for sure.
And who else do you have your eye on in Class A?
I think you gotta look at Millard West, West Side, Lincoln East. I would probably even throw Papio South into that mix. Those are some teams that are going to be there. Dark horse teams. I would probably throw out Bryan. They've seemed to kind of pull things together a little bit here down the stretch. So, talking to a couple of coaches the last couple of nights, there's some big time trepidation for some of those coaches that are going to be 1 seeds and host district tournaments about what 2 seed is going to be in their bracket, because there are some very, very formidable 2 seeds between 8 and 14 that'll keep some coaches up at night for sure.
And that's kind of an interesting note, that district tournament heading into state. It's also going to be a different state tournament this year for coaches, over 8 days this year, right?
Yep. Stretching out a little bit from 6 games a day to 4 games a day, which I think benefits a lot of people in terms of legs, rest, but just a little bit of a different format. It'll change things for the finals. Finals will be boys one night, girls the next night, rather than Class A and Class B. So a little bit of a change, but I think everyone's looking forward to that.
Definitely. Let's move to Class B now, where we have a clear-cut favorite.
Yeah. Skutt has really established itself as the team in Class B. If there were any questions out there, and I wasn't one of the ones that had questions about them, but they really answered those over the weekend. They beat Papio South and Millard North by combined 7-0 scores. Those are 2 good top 10 Class A teams, and Skutt beat them on back-to-back days. Their only loss this season is in a shootout to Class A number 1 Lincoln Southwest. So, that they are right there. They also are strong, a lot like Southwest, strong in goal. Zach Weiss is a senior, one of the best keepers in the state. Defender, John Myers, also a senior. Those 2 guys are all Nebraska second team picks as sophomores. Those guys give Skutt a really, really good chance in every match. So they haven't given up a goal in the last 10 matches, and that is a pretty good formula for success. So
I feel like you can't go wrong calling Omaha Skutt a favorite in any sport.
We're getting there. We're certainly getting there. And then especially in Class B, when you look at in recent years, Elkhorn South moving out, Gretna moving out, it's really cleared the path, especially on the girls' side. When we talk about Class B girls, it's really kind of cleared that path for Skutt. Now, nothing's going to be handed to them. There's certainly teams that are capable of springing upsets, but yeah, they would be prohibitive favorites on both sides.
And one of those teams that's right there with Skutt is Lexington. And I really enjoyed this note you had. The Minutemen have won 11 in a row after losing to Skutt. And since then, they have outscored opponents 75-4.
Yeah, pretty impressive, right? I mean, you lose the opening weekend and then you haven't lost since. I mean, they over this last weekend won their conference tournament in 3 games, outscored conference opponents 26-0. So yeah, they are going to be in the mix. They really are. I know Skutt has that win over them, but that would be a good final. That would be a very good final.
And then who do you think are kind of the next two or that next tier behind Lexington and Skutt?
Yeah. I have Bennington ranked third, Beatrice ranked fourth. Bennington hasn't lost to a Class B opponent this season. They've run off 9 wins in a row, including winning their conference tournament, the EMC tournament last week. Beatrice has won 6 straight since calendar flipped to April. So those two are probably the hottest teams behind Skutt and Lexington. And then from there, it really kind of is a toss-up jumbled mess where everybody's beating everybody, and throw them into a hat and pick them out as you will. So that will make their district tournaments and district finals wild. I buckle up for those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the quote unquote upset in districts.
Yeah,
upset.
Yeah. I would say I would put an S on the end of that, upsets, because I would anticipate quite a few.
Well, before we talk girls soccer, I want to take a minute for a message from our sponsor, MD West One.
As the official team doctors for high school and college teams across Greater Omaha, MD West One Sports Med doctors can get you back into the game stronger than ever. Meet the Sports Med team at mdwest1.com or call 402-390-4111.
Class A girls, right off the bat, you have to start with Gretna and Husker recruit Sarah Weber.
Yeah, they're the real deal. They really are. I didn't realize it until I started looking up some of the things today that they already hold the Class B record for goals scored in a season, I should say. And they are knocking on the door of the Class A record now. They are up to 108, I believe, either 108 or 109. They're about 20 goals behind the Class A record, which was set 20 years ago. And, they are scoring goals at a crazy clip. Sarah Weber, just like you mentioned, 32 goals, 21 assists. She's right now on a different planet. And their offense is not just her. They had another player, Savannah Defini. She broke the Class A single game scoring record with 8 the other day. 8 in one game, and 6 assists for Sarah Weber that night, tied the Class A record. They're a machine. They're a machine offensively. They're getting offense from so many different places. And if you kind of look at the next couple of weeks of what they look like, they have 3 regular season matches left, at least 2 district matches, probably a state tournament match. So you're at 6 there. I would be surprised if they don't break that scoring mark in that stretch. They have taken Class A by storm for sure, winning the Metro tournament in their first try in convincing fashion all the way through. So that is a good program, a very, very good program right now.
What is it about their offense? Obviously, Sarah Weber, supremely talented, Savannah Define behind her. Is there something about their scheme that is freeing these players up, or is it just that these players are, like you said, on another planet, just can't be stopped?
Yeah, and I think you used the right terminology there, freeing people up. When teams put 1 or 2 people on Sarah Weber every game, it's going to open things for other people, and they have capable scorers. They have another physical forward, Allison Marshall up front, freshman. She's in double-digit goals. So they have people around Sarah Weber, and when Sarah has that much attention, with 21 assists, she's finding people open in space that is created because of all the attention she gets. So, it's a perfect combination for them right now, for sure.
Yeah, allows her to just operate like a good point guard in basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the other part of that is she's very willing to do that. You will sometimes get goal scorers that don't like seeing zeros under the G, and she is not that person. She is a willing participant in racking up goals for everyone else too, and talks openly about that. So yeah, that is like I said, that's a pretty tough combination.
And then that next tier behind Gretna, there's a couple interesting teams from Lincoln.
Yeah. Yeah, I would put, so we have Lincoln Southwest ranked right behind Gretna. They're ranked 2, Lincoln East 3. Southwest won in a shootout when the two met a couple of weeks ago. East was down a few players that night, and they have actually had 2 season-ending injuries. That head coach Emily Matthews tells me that they've filled those positions with sophomores that are stepping up, and she's been happy with that. So I would imagine they'll have their footing for the postseason. And it'll be very interesting to see if one of those, Gretna, Lincoln East, Lincoln Southwest, if one of those teams can kind of get in there and win a title. It's been 14 straight state tournaments won by the combination of Marion, Millard West, or Millard North. And those 3 teams, at least now, don't appear to be on the same level as the Gretna, Lincoln East, Lincoln Southwest group. But things changed on the stretch. But yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen anyone else hoist that Class A girls championship.
Would it be a surprise? You mentioned Millard West, Millard North, Marion. Would it be a surprise to have any of those 3 teams or all of them not in the state tournament field, or with the parity, is it way too early to say?
It would be a surprise if none of them were there. Those are 3 programs that will never be down, or will never be down to the point where they're out of the mix. They may have to win a district to get in. But again, those are teams that have talent enough to be capable of doing that. Those are teams that year over year, they're winning games, they're getting reserves into games and getting that experience. And they're really dealing with that lost year, kind of cutting that lifeline off a little bit. So I would be surprised if none of them are in the state tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 of them misses out, gets a tough draw, has to, go up against a Gretna in a district championship, but they'll contend to get to the state tournament for sure. And then when you get to the state tournament, who knows? I mean, you're playing on a big field. You pop one in early, and we've all seen times where that's all you need. So they will be in the conversation for sure.
And perennial contenders feels like a natural segue over to Class B and Omaha Skutt, who we mentioned earlier. Just like boys, they're right there at the top.
Yeah, heavy betting favorite. They are very, very good. They're really out in front of Class B by a wide margin, probably more the boys' side. And CC Barron's, their star forward, gets a lot of the headlines, but you don't beat 2 Class A top 5 teams in one day like they did over the weekend. You don't do that behind one player. They've got pieces around CC that do their jobs, and they're good on defense. I know they went out to North Platte a couple weekends ago. Made that drive, had a few players out, CC Barron's included, kind of had a hiccup against North Platte, lost in a shootout. But I think when they have their entire team on the field, that they are one of the top 5 teams in the state, no matter what class. So very, very good team. They're looking to win a 7th title since 2009. And like I said earlier, they are a clear favorite to do that.
Yeah, 7 titles since 2009 feels pretty dang good. You have next week's River Cities Conference tournament circled?
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have obviously Skutt in there, but then you're going to have ranked teams behind them. Duchesne, Mercy, 2 teams that were ranked right behind Skutt. And then you have Gross, Roncalli, which have been kind of ratings contenders as well. So Skutt will get a couple of quality matches on back-to-back nights next week. And that'll be good for them going into the district tournaments.
Feels like kind of an early district preview. We could see probably a few repeats from that tournament. Yeah.
Again, and in the boys' side too, when you put Gross, Mount Michael, Ralston, Skutt, not Beatrice. When you put those kind of teams, South Sioux City, when you put all of those on the boys' side, you're going to have some quality semifinals, and then obviously a very good final as well.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
Fantastic look into soccer. Looking forward to your district coverage. Where can people find you on Twitter?
You find me at Nick Rubek, OWH. And yeah, we're keeping up with soccer as we get here into the postseason run, and should be fun. Now, if we can just get the weather to cooperate, we will we'll have a good finish to the season.
Well, we'll have to have you back on to preview some state soccer for us. That
absolutely
8-day event at Morrison Stadium this year. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Till next time, have a great day.